Throughout the years, we have never interfered. Until now.
Ended when you said good.
Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live all the way from beautiful Hawaii. Once again, back from my long vacation. I know that I haven't put out any videos for like almost a month. But if you had checked my Instagram page, you'll see that I didn't miss too many movies and giving you the shaka thumbs up or shaka thumbs down for those movies. Since I didn't do a full review on No Time to Die, the James Bond movie, and if you didn't see my Instagram, that was a shaka thumbs down for that movie. A week entry for the final showing of Daniel Craig. I do admit it was better than Spectre, but still, since Quantum of Solace, I think Daniel Craig had just been slumming in the James Bond role overall. And, you know, definitely after Skyfall, they should have had him gone. That's enough of that. Halloween Kills died at the box office. Shaka thumbs down. Don't even waste your time watching this movie. Even for free, it's not worth the money. You know, if you subscribe to Peacock, you can watch it for free there, but it's definitely not worth it. Totally destroyed what the 2018 movie was setting up. Wasted opportunity, absolutely, for Halloween Kills. The franchise is dead once more. Okay, now that we're all caught up, Eternals, the Marvel movie. You've seen it, I've seen it, the world has seen it, and well, you know, the critic reviews have not been kind to this movie. The audience reaction reviews have been a little bit more positive, but for the Eternals, the latest and greatest Marvel movie that has come out, the one that will be followed up by Spider-Man No Way Home here in December, starring Selma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, the Stark brothers from Game of Thrones, both the King of the Norths. This movie, oh, and Gemma Chan, that cutie, that beauty cutie that came from television, the show Humans, and you know, she was supposed to have a franchise going in the Transformers, but ooh, I think that's dead on arrival, just like the Eternals is. If you haven't guessed, remember our rating scale. Shaka thumbs up, it's good to see, I recommend it. Shaka thumbs down, it's junk, I don't recommend it. And for the Eternals, the new Marvel movie, it is a shaka thumbs down overall. What can I say about this movie is that it's boring. The first 2 acts of this movie is almost straight exposition as Kevin Feige tries to catch you up on who the heck the Eternals are. Because even as a Marvel fan myself, well versed in the Avengers, fairly well in the X-Men, Fantastic Four, you name it, you tell me, hey, there's going to be an Eternal movie, and I'll be like, huh? The Eternals? Why? You know, that comic didn't last. You know, it was created by Jack Kirby. Basically, it was what Jack Kirby did for DC, the New Gods. The Eternals were essentially the New Gods, but for the Marvel Universe. Which is maybe why, you know, Chloe Zhao, the great director, couldn't make this movie work, because it felt so much like a Justice League movie, a DC Justice League movie. Better than the Whedon verse, I'd say probably on par with Zac Snyder's Justice League, but still far below any of the entries that we've had for the Marvel Cinematic Universe since its creation with Iron Man. Boring, because, like I said, you had to go through almost an hour and a half of exposition, people telling you who the Eternals were, what their mission was, why they were here on Earth, these super powerful, godlike aliens, Superman level, Kryptonian level powers, far above that of Thor. And in my Instagram, I kind of wrote down that it's like, hey, you know, this really felt like Justice League. There's a tech guy that could be like Cyborg, kind of. There's the Flash, basically. You know, there's a Superman character. There's a Wonder Woman-like character. Oh my God. You know, if Feige decided to go to DC, you know, he'd be right at home, right there, doing Justice League instead of the Avengers, because he nails it in this movie. Unfortunately, that's why it doesn't feel like the MCU. You know, whereas all the other Avengers had their own movies to build up to flesh out their characters. Again, the slog of the exposition so that you know who these characters are, where they came from, these Eternals, that how they were created by the Celestials. Yeah, remember those guys from the Guardians of the Galaxy. And you know, and they try to build it up so that you care about these guys, but it just fails. I mean, and they used Gemma Chan, the pretty gal, to kind of be your bridge between the humans and the Eternals, because she loves humanity and she's fallen in love with one of the humans more than any of the other Eternals. Although each have grown to respect and enjoy humanity and living here for hundreds of years. We see history lessons all the way from Macedonia to Babylon to India to the Aztec, fall of the Aztec Empire by the conquistadors, because they are never, you know, all the war-torn history of humans, the Eternals were never meant to interfere with the evolution of humans. You know, and so they couldn't interfere with the wars. Hiroshima even. The only thing they were here set to do was to help protect humans from these other aliens called the Deviants, which are monstrous-like creatures that, you know, preyed on, you know, basically humans to eat. And so the Eternals were here to destroy them and protect humans from them. But once they had destroyed all the Deviants centuries ago, they just kind of stayed on Earth until they were to receive the order by their celestial commander to return back home. And without too much spoilers, we find out that they were never really going to go return home, that the Celestials had basically been playing them all along, prepping Earth itself to basically be the womb of the next generation of Celestials. And in being birthed from the Earth, it would destroy humanity and the Earth itself. Thus, you know, the Eternals were meant to be basically babysitters for Celestials until they are ready to be born. And, you know, essentially we're bringing about the destruction of Earth. Now, I don't know what the comic was about. I'm guessing it was at least loosely based on this movie, or, you know, the movie was loosely based on that. I never read the Eternals. I never enjoyed it. You know, I would see it up on the shelf at the comic book store when I would go pick up my Spider-Man, my Avengers, my X-Men, etc. And I was like, the Eternals, you know. It's like, do I want to read about super gods or something running around on Earth or whatever? That's like, nah, not really. I mean, you know, because you couldn't relate to them in the comic, basically, because they are Superman level entities, which is what DC has the problem in, that you can't relate to their characters. That was the golden goose of Marvel, was that, hey, these superheroes, yeah, they're super powered and all this stuff, but Spider-Man, he still has trouble paying the rent. You know, the X-Men, they're still getting, you know, discriminated against. You know, the Fantastic Four, the Thing, he's still getting discriminated against because he's a big rock guy and he can't find love, etc. You know, they were relatable to the people who were reading the comic books. They were, you know, you could see their humanity. But in the Celestials, well, in the Celestial made Eternals, the Eternals, you don't have that. You don't have that bridge. They try to make Gemma Chan that bridge. You know, and it, you know, maybe if they had given her enough time, but she's kind of wimpy because she can, all her powers is that she can change inanimate matter into other matter. She can't do life form. She can't change, I don't know, you know, it's kind of weird. She can't change, well, she says she can't change like a rock into a bird, or rock into a human or whatever, or human into, she can't affect living creatures. So she couldn't change a man into a rock or a giraffe, which is a joke running through the movie. However, when she becomes super powered at the end in order to prevent the destruction of the Earth, she does have that power for a limited time, that she can affect matter, you know, living matter. But I digress, and I've given you a little bit of the spoilers. Essentially, again, this movie is boring just because, one, you can't relate to the characters because they're so much more powerful than anything else we've seen in the Marvel Universe. Two, there's so much backstory and exposition that is basically just told to you through this movie that, you know, you're snoring through most of it until the third act, where you finally get that kind of Man of Steel, you know, crashing through Metropolis fight scenes that you were kind of hoping for, you know, kind of all through the movie at this kind of power scale level. So the third act is the only act that you could really enjoy. You know, and they do their best to bring everything together. But again, you know, it's just a slog of a movie at over 2 hours of exposition, of trying to find a reason to care for these characters. Gemma Chan, like I said, you know, who plays Cersei, is supposed to be your bridge to why we should care about the Eternals, because they care about us, but it doesn't quite work. And then even her human sidekick slash love interest of Kit Harington, Jon Snow, he is barely in the movie, and spoilers, he's cast as the Black Knight, but him becoming, or choosing to become and carry on the legacy of the Black Knight, who is an Eternals character, well, not an Eternals character, but a Avengers member in the comics. You know, he's barely in the movie for like 10 minutes, and it's in an end credit scene where he decides to become the Black Knight and carry on his family's legacy, only to try to you know, find or win the love of Cersei, Gemma Chan's character, fully. He wants to go rescue her because it's kind of set up on this movie ends on a cliffhanger, whereas the Eternals who saved Earth, betraying the Celestials, are captured by the Celestials and held captive. So Jon Snow wants to try to find them, but, you know, in the comics, it's like, well, he doesn't have that kind of power level to be taken on. I mean, yeah, he's the Black Knight, but he's a dude with, like, you know, the ebony blade. Kind of think of like an Excalibur. This blade can cut through anything, you know, because it's a magical blade. Perhaps he's going to get more play in Doctor Strange or something like that. But how would he go travel across the universe to try to find the Eternals, to find the woman that he loves, Gemma Chan? You know, I don't know. And then the other end credit scene is that they introduce another comic Avenger, comic book member of the Avengers, Star Fox, who is another Eternal, who had kind of become, you know, kind of a joke in the Marvel comics. There was a whole trial because he has some way of, he exudes pheromones, so females fall in love with him, you know, which was problematic kind of for the Me Too movement, kind of a thing. So he was kind of ridden out of the comics during the late 90s, 80s, or I'm sorry, late 90s, 2000s. There's a big trial about it in the comics. I think She-Hulk defends him or something, but whew. But I mean, I never really read an Avengers comic book with Star Fox, and I'm really going off the deep end now, so I never really cared for him. He didn't seem all that powerful personally. He flew around. Basically, that was about his superpower that I saw in the comic books. That's about all he did in the Avengers, was fly around. But yeah, there's really nothing solid that ties this to any of the other MCU movies. There is a mention that the Eternals have some type of energy bracelets, that at the end, their cyborg-like character, their tech genius, links together to share all their powers so that Gemma Chan can get a super boost to her powers to help stop the Celestials and the destruction of Earth. So that might be a little Easter egg towards Shang-Chi and where the 10 rings had come from. It looked a little similar, seemed to have this type of super cosmic energy power, but how they ended up into the Mandarin's possession, how he found them, what were they doing, just laying there? And all 10 of them, because only one per Eternal, so what, did 10 other Eternals die and he found all these rings? Again, this is just speculation, but that's the only tie to the Marvel Universe that you could maybe make. The other one is at the end, there is a new island that has been formed. There are volcanic eruptions around the Indian Ocean. Perhaps some of that, which would have, these earthquakes and these volcanic eruptions would have led to the destruction of the Earth. Perhaps it is not Namor that was the cause of this destruction, that in Avengers Endgame, Shuri or, and Black Widow talk about how, there's some, we should look into these earthquakes, these underwater tremors. So maybe it wasn't Namor, although he will probably be in the next Black Panther movie. but you know, probably with the Wakandans will think that Namor caused the earthquakes. Namor thinks maybe the Wakandans caused the earthquakes, but now we can see from the Eternals it was the Celestials causing the earthquakes. Maybe, you know, that was referenced in Avengers Endgame. Maybe. You know, again, no solid confirmation to the rest of the MCU. You get name drops of the Avengers. You don't see any of the Avengers. You don't even get a news report of the Avengers. There's mention of Thanos, just like you've seen in the trailer. Hey, why didn't the Eternals help against Thanos? Oh, we were told by the Celestials not to help. We couldn't do that. It was against our rules. But other than that, you know, nothing. No, you know, Doctor Strange doesn't show up. Wong doesn't show up. Thor doesn't show up. Captain Marvel doesn't show up. These guys are even more powerful than Captain Marvel. That's how powerful the Eternals are. And we've seen how powerful that Captain Marvel is. Being able to take out, you know, ships in a single blast. You know, the Eternals could do that easily. Even more so than Thor, who couldn't take out a ship on his own, apparently. So I don't know. This puts the MCU in the next stage. If this was to really set it off on Phase 4, Black Widow doesn't really count because that was a prequel. You're starting Phase 4 on real shaky ground. In the comics, the Eternals and the Celestials, you know, the Celestials creating the Eternals was kind of worked into causing mutants to be created on Earth. I think that's the way it was rewritten, other than just radiation from atomic testing and nuclear testing later on. I'm not 100% sure of that, but yeah. I mean, the actors are all good in this movie, you know, and they deliver the lines and the dialogue, and there's a fair amount of action at the end, and a little bit of it throughout the movie, but still not enough, I feel, to save this movie overall from, you know, I guess maybe the too ambitious, too grandiose scope that maybe Kevin Feige wanted to try to ram in there in 2 hours. And that's just the way it is. So yeah, so shock a thumbs down overall for the Eternals. And we'll go ahead and talk to you later. All right. Thanks so much, and aloha.